Hey guys, what's up? So for 15 years, video game consoles have been banned in China. You could still buy them, and I'm going to go into that in a second because I have been to China several times and I know how the market works over there. But following a statement from the country's Ministry of Culture, companies like Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, amongst others, obviously anyone who wants to produce a console will be able to do that, and that actually is something that I could imagine that some Chinese companies pick up this concept and they're going to build their own console and it will sell so much better than the PS4 and the Xbox One. But they will be allowed in the very soon future to sell their video game consoles anywhere in the country. The ban was originally introduced in 2000 due to the government thinking that 3D worlds produced by the consoles might have a negative effect on the mental and physical development of children, which is utter nonsense, and I think everyone can decide for themselves. But hey, it's China, they have their own rules, they have their own ideas how to run a country, so I'm not going to question that and I'm not going to go into that. However, when I went to China, I saw loads of video game consoles. It's not that they don't exist over there, you can buy them, and it is not really a black market situation. Actually, I shot a video on like a massive gaming department store when I was there. I'm gonna put that right here so you get an idea. So how PCs or any technology in China works: if you want to buy something, you go to these huge department stores, and it's just 5, 6, 7 floors on top of each other of loads of small retailers that try to compete for the better price and get customers on board. And then you have a whole floor that is all about cameras, you have a whole floor that's all about PCs and laptops. And the video you're seeing now, I know it's not a great video, but I guess it gives you a bit of an idea. It's basically the floor where it's all about video games. And you can buy PCs, you can buy any kind of handheld console. Actually, I looked at PS Vita games in China, which were more expensive than in the West, obviously. But you can also see like Nintendo Wii's, in shelves behind glass. You can see banners of the Xbox 360. I mean, I think this video was shot like in 2011 or something, so the new consoles weren't yet out. So it's not that you can't get consoles in China. You do get them, but it's a bit more tricky to get them. And it's also not that the government will just like storm a building like this and shut everything down just because they're selling an Xbox. It's just that you can't promote the consoles publicly. So you can't have a massive banner hanging from a building that promotes the new Xbox, or you can't have a TV ad that sells you the new console as the best thing ever. So that is not possible, but you can buy games, you can buy consoles. However, looking at the gaming market in China, it is not the consoles that people are playing, probably because it's a bit more tricky to get them, but widely spread, people are playing PC games, people are playing mobile games, and people are playing web games, just browser games. Poker is very, very popular in China. All these little gambling games are just huge, everyone plays those. And when I spoke to people over in China, it was quite interesting what they were saying. Like, most of the games that they have, obviously we've never heard of them. Like, China has their own gaming ecosystem. They have their own MMOs, their own RPGs, their own anything really, their own shooters. They just have everything in their own way, and obviously also in their own language. But a lot of these games are designed to get people hooked on them and to get people to spend as much money as possible, because obviously China is a very money-driven country. Everyone wants to make a big buck as quickly as possible. So people are very good at designing games that get people addicted and that get people hooked and spending loads of money on in-app purchases. Now, obviously the Xbox One and the PS4 are following quite a different concept, but I think generally in China, even there is quite a big middle class growing at the moment. Most people just won't be able to afford them anyway. If you live, not exactly in the big cities like Shanghai or Beijing or something, then you already earn good money if you make, let's say, $1,000 a month. You're not a bad earner in a country because obviously your daily expenses of food and rent and all that is much lower. So people are living off much less money, and if you then have to buy a video game console that costs $400, or probably it's going to be a bit more expensive in China, let's say $500, that is quite a big expense. But then on the other hand, if you walk around in China, you see loads of people using expensive smartphones. Everyone has an iPad, everyone uses an iPhone. So people do seem to have some spare money that they like to put in Western technology. And I think that's actually a key point in selling these consoles. It is Western technology. And anything that is Western and that is cutting edge, which, you can sell the PS4 and Xbox One as cutting edge, as even I know that some people might disagree with that. But people buy it because it's a Western thing, right? And people feel cool if they have the newest Western thing in China, because you just can't get everything. And if you've never left China, you actually have not that much of an idea how it is to live in the West and what we are doing over here every day. My personal opinion is that Sony and Microsoft should sell their consoles a bit cheaper rather than more expensive. I think that's probably not going to happen. But if you bring a console like that to the market and you charge only $300, your install base will just be, 1,000 times bigger. And I mean, keep in mind, China has a population of like 1.3 billion people. It might be actually at 1.4 billion at this point. And if just 0.02% of people buy your console, you're making an insane amount of money. So I can really imagine that Sony, Microsoft, and also Nintendo are probably opening quite a few champagne bottles in their offices right now, because this basically means massive revenue for them. Also because they can manufacture in China, right? They don't need to import the consoles from somewhere else. They build them in China, they sell them in China. It's going to make them an insane amount of money. One thing to mention actually is that Sony and Microsoft might get away with it. I mean, Sony is a Japanese company, but they don't have this hardcore Japanese reputation as Nintendo has. And you have to know there is quite a rivalry between Chinese and Japanese people. It goes that far that some people in China actually boycott Japanese products, whether it's cosmetics or cars. People go actually that far to not purchase these products just because they're coming from Japan. So I could imagine that a company like Nintendo, who really has a strong Japanese heritage, will have bigger problems in China than Microsoft and even Sony. I know Sony is based in Japan, but they do have quite a Western twist to their company, so I think they have less of a problem. Now, another interesting point is that most people don't have these powerful gaming PCs in their home. In China, as well as in other Asian countries, you don't game at home. You go to these gaming/internet cafes, which is stuff you don't really see over here, at least in the UK. But people are sitting there in rows after rows, and they're just playing all day long, in really comfortable chairs. Actually, I was lucky enough to witness something like that once. I was sitting in the street food cafe. Basically, you're just sitting on the side of a street, on the pavement, on little crates, and you're eating meat that is grilled for you, and it tasted delicious. But as you eat the meat, you're drinking a lot of beer. And then at some point I had to go to the toilet, and the guy was like, yeah, the toilets are next door across the street, and you go to this internet cafe and you can use their toilet. So I did that, and I walked up, and I come into this room which is just illuminated by screens. It was quite late at night, right? So completely dark room, just screens illuminating it, and it was at least like 200 PCs, and each single PC was occupied. And I had a look at all these screens. It reminded me a little bit of like LAN parties, you remember that? We did that in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, where you bring all your computers to one room and then link them up and play together. So there were hundreds of people sitting there, and they were playing like Counter-Strike, they were playing like a clone of World of Warcraft, loads of MMOs going on, loads of browser games, and you could see these people were not sitting there since an hour. These people were sitting there all day long. So there is this culture of people going out into cafes, spending money on an hourly basis to pay for their gaming experience. So if Microsoft and Sony and possibly Nintendo find a way to overcome that and sell to people that you can now play from your home and you don't have to go to these cafes anymore, that might be an interesting thing. I think that might open up a whole market that might sell them loads of units. However, you also have to keep in mind that China has not played video game consoles, or at least not on a large scale, for 15 years. People are primed to PC gaming, people are primed to mobile and web games. So it's going to be tricky to introduce such a new device, such a new idea, at least for that market, into people's brains and get them to buy a console and put it under their TV and play from home on their couch. So it really remains to be seen, and there are loads of question marks in this whole story. So I find it personally really, really interesting, and I'm definitely going to make more videos on this in the future, when we're going to see first sales. How is a market of 1.3 billion people picking up a product like the Xbox One and PS4 when they already missed out on the previous generations of consoles? Really exciting stuff, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can leave me a like, you can subscribe to my channel if you have not yet done that. Again, lots of new subscribers recently. I'm very happy to have all you guys on board. I hope you're enjoying the content. Please leave all your thoughts down in the comment section below so I can shape my videos more to your expectations. That would be great. So guys, take care, stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. I'm out. Bye.